2024 NFL Draft is in the books, and now it is time to look over all the picks Sean Payton and the Broncos made, and I'll give out grades for each selection and an overall team grade at the end because that's what we Americans do after the draft. We give way too early grades, and we get super upset about it, and nothing can be done about it for a few years at the very least. But before we do that, quick reminder, go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below. We're trying to get to 22,000 subscribers. The more subscribers we get, the more studio space I have, so I can go live for more than just a round or two of the 2025 NFL Draft. So if you're looking for a free Broncos YouTube channel, hit that sub button down below. Now let's start in chronological order with Denver's first pick in the draft, which was Bo Nix, 12th overall. A selection that, hand up, like, I'm not the craziest about. I know a lot of our viewers are big fans of Bo Nix and are big Bo Nix believers. And listen, I want to gravitate and come towards your side, but my raw opinion coming out of the college football season, which I don't think people should lose sight of throughout the combine and the pre-draft process, was Bo Nix showed us that he's got great accuracy when checking it down on short passes. His average depth of target was one of the shortest in FBS. So when people look at the 77% completion percentage, that's a really great number and all, but I want to see it more than just behind the line of scrimmage or within 9 yards of the line of scrimmage, which made up 67% of his passes last year. 4,500 yards, 45 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, loads of experience, 3-year starter at Auburn, 2-year starter at Oregon. This is not a developmental pick. This is someone that we're going to see early on whether or not he can play the position at the NFL or he can't. My grade for the pick is a B-. It wasn't my preferred selection. I would have rather gone with a Brock Bowers, to be honest. Maybe entertain a trade back. I didn't think Bo Nix would go round one, so we'll never really know if Denver could have had it, best of both ways and trade back and get him in round 2. But if Sean Payton feels that he can run his offense and he can control the football, he can protect the ball, and he can avoid sacks, things that really got underneath Sean Payton's skin with the last quarterback, then I'm not going to stand here and get in the way of that. But this is Sean Payton's first time going a quarterback in the draft early on, right? He never had to pick a quarterback in New Orleans with Drew Brees. So this is a first for him. So as great as Sean Payton is, every single head coach has missed on a quarterback. It's just inevitable. It's a very difficult position to nail down. But if Payton is confident that Bo Nix can make all the throws and that he was limited at Oregon just because of the offense they ran, then who am I to disagree? Now, do you like the Bo Nix draft pick? Yes or no? Get in the comment section just right off the bat. Let me know if you like this pick or not. It appears that about 60 to 65% of the fan base is on board with Nix, and the other 35 to 40%, they're going to be like me. I'll believe it when I see it when it comes to him completing downfield throws with accuracy. Then they waited until pick 76 to get their next selection in, and that was edge rusher Jonah Ellis out of Utah. I mean, an absolute pipeline of a family from the kitchen table to the NFL. His brother Caden Ellis is with the Atlanta Falcons. His dad Luther Ellis was older father. His dad Luther played for the Broncos in the early 2000s. The family lived in Denver for a short period of time before moving to Idaho, where he would have his brother ended up going to college before Jonah went to Utah. But anyway, I like this selection a lot. I think Jonah Ellis was the 4th best pass rusher in this class. He's got an amazing first step, great quickness, solid size altogether. He's not going to be a tone setter against the run, but in a pass rushing committee and rotation, I think he is someone that can get you between 8 to 10 sacks when he fully puts on enough weight to be a guy that can push off an offensive tackle. Last year for the Utes, 37 tackles, 12 sacks, and he was 20 years old. I'm willing to believe that give him a year or two and he puts on some muscle and he goes through an NFL offseason of getting himself in the best shape, which, given his family lineage, my guess is that is all the Ellises do after the season and before the season starts. He puts on some serious muscle and he's going to add some strength and some bull rushing moves to his pass rushing repertoire. and I think this is going to be a really good pick for Denver in a few years. That's why I'm going to give it an A. Jonah Ellis was one of my favorite sleepers for day 2 of the draft. Loved this selection for the Broncos all the way at pick 76. I thought this was an A grade and an A pick by George and Sean Payton. Moving on to round 4, 102, where the Broncos used one of their 3 fifth-round picks to trade up with the Seattle Seahawks, and they took Bo Nix's number 1 wide receiver, Troy Franklin. A speed demon, vertical threat, ran a good 40-yard dash, 4.41 off the top of my head. Not the biggest size and frame, though, sub 180 pounds, which means he can be dislodged off his route pretty easily. And I don't think he runs a very extensive route tree, but he's just a producer. I don't know how else to say it other than the guy was productive during his 3 years at Oregon. He holds lots of records for the Ducks. 1,300 yards last season, one of the best in FBS, along with 14 touchdowns. Sure, he may not have the greatest physical makeup of a wide receiver, but the guy had a knack for scoring touchdowns and making big plays for the Ducks. So if you want to get Bo Nix comfortable, I don't think it's the worst idea in the world to trade one of your 5th-round picks to move up in round 4 when it's not even a very deep wide receiver draft or overall prospect draft class to begin with, and go get Franklin. I'll give it a B- grade. The only reason why I'm not giving it a higher grade is I felt like defensive tackle and just run stopping in together was a bigger need than an additional wide receiver. So if they were going to make a move up, I thought it might be for a defensive lineman. There was a big run of DTs in round number 2, so the Broncos may not have felt like there was a good DT left in round number 4. So maybe it's a B, kind of be a generous like finals professor and round up from a B- to a B, somewhere in that neighborhood. Now, the next pick they made was at 145, where they went with Kris Abrams-Draine, the cornerback out of Missouri. Our NFL draft expert Tom Downey had him ranked as the 14th best corner, 112 overall. You can see the size is on the lighter side, 5'11", 179 pounds. But despite not being the biggest and most physical corner, he made up with that with great production at Mizzou last year. 50 tackles, 4 interceptions, 16 pass breakups. This is traits of like Jaquan McMillan where, yes, on paper, it doesn't look like he's going to be big enough or strong enough to go up against NFL wide receivers. But he was in the SEC, and that's a division where you've got guys like Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas and loads of other wide receivers who went early in the draft. And he went up against a lot of them, and he came away with his fair share of victories. So I like this pick for Denver. I think Abrams-Draine will likely project to be a slot corner in the NFL because of his size, but I still think he's going to have a knack for making plays at the next level. Now, how would you grade the Broncos draft pick so far? A, B, C, D, or F? We're going to look at the remaining picks, so if you want to change your grade, you're more than welcome to. But now that we've gotten through some of the big picks they made in the draft, what are we feeling like here? Then in round 5, 2 selections later, the Broncos went running back Audric Estime from Notre Dame. He is the South Bend bowling ball, 5'11", 222 pounds. The reason why he fell in the draft, despite having great production last year for the Fighting Irish, 1,300 yards, 18 touchdowns, you're probably asking yourself, I didn't watch a lot of Notre Dame football, but why didn't this guy go earlier? Well, a big reason why is because of his 40-yard dash. We'll throw the stats on screen for you all here, but he ran a 4.71 40-yard dash. Listen, when it comes to the 40, I think it's a little bit overblown, and it's kind of meaningless-ish for some positions. But positions where it's not meaningless, wide receiver, cornerback, running back. Those are positions where they find themselves running nearly 40 yards in a straight line. And for Estime to run a 4.7 40-yard dash, to me, I think that really limits his abilities to have breakaway plays in the NFL. But if they plan to use him in goal line packages, because the Broncos had one of the worst run zone offenses, specifically in the run game last year, you've got my blessing on this pick. I just don't want to see him be misused and be surprised that if you give him the ball on 1st and 10 at your own 25, you're probably not going to pick up a big chunk of change. But if you use him at 3rd and goal from the 3, that could be a great spot for him. I'll give it a C grade. For me, I just can't seem to move past the 40-yard dash. And if he's able to overcome that, by all means, I'll be the first to admit I was wrong. But that was one of the worst running back 40-yard dashes we've ever seen. And at the next level, you're going to be going up against linebackers who are faster than you. And that's already a disadvantage when they're bigger and stronger too. Moving on to round number 7, where the Broncos went with Devaughn, Vele, the Utah wide receiver. He is ancient. He is definitely buying all the booze for the rookie class. He's 26 years old. He did not start playing college football until after serving a 3-year LDS mission in Samoa. Then he walks on at Utah, and he quickly rises the depth chart, and he's a productive player. He's got great size and speed. 6'4", ran a 4.5 40-yard dash. At pick 235, you can be 100 for all I care. That works for me. So he's older, but maybe he can provide some short-term impact for this team before he gets to 30. Then at pick 256, the second to last pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, similar to last year, the Broncos go center. This time it is Nix Gargiulo from South Carolina. He started off at Yale, transfers to USC, and then for the Gamecocks, he puts together some really good tape, some really good play, some versatility across the offensive line. And Denver needs a new starting center. And they have brought in a free agent in Sam Mustipher. They had a 7th-round pick last year in Alex Forsythe, who was Bo Nix's old center, by the way, for a season. And now they go with the South Carolina center. So they are not sparing a single draft expense or free agency expense to make sure there is enough competition to get the best man for the job. Overall, I'm going to give the Broncos 2024 draft a B grade. They only had 2 picks in the top 100, so it's tough to come out of that looking as good as maybe a handful of teams who had 1st and 2nd round picks. But with what Denver had to work with, I felt like they made some really good picks. Love the Jonah Ellis selection. Choosing to be cautiously pessimistic about the Bo Nix pick, but I'll quickly join the other side if I'm proven wrong early on. But on the record now, that's not a pick that I would have made at the 12th overall spot. Big fan of the Kris Abrams-Draine selection. And if Audric Estime is just a vulture and he gets 8 to 9 goal line touchdowns like a Jamal Williams for the Detroit Lions, then Denver is pushing all the right buttons for their players at the right spots. That will do it for us, though. Our draft coverage is over. But we're not going anywhere. We're going to have UDFA tracker video for you guys bright and early tomorrow. So make sure to subscribe, and we're going to see you guys throughout the entire offseason.